Hey everyone, my name is Guus, that's G-U-U-S, and today I'll be telling you why I think that the Insta360 GO is the absolute best action camera for running. I will also be doing a little bit of an experiment, trying to figure out what is the best way to get first-person running footage using this absolutely tiny camera. So let me start off this video by saying that this is definitely not a full review of this camera. I will actually not be making a full review because there's already so many of them out there. Now, in case you do want to see a full review, I will actually link my favorite full review, and which I personally believe to be the most complete one, in the description down below, as well as in the info card up there. This is by a small channel named Jamesis, who actually has less subscribers than me, I believe, which is really surprising to me considering the quality of his videos. So if you do want to look at any full review, I highly recommend that you check out his. I guess you could see this video as kind of a running review of this camera. So for those people who plan to use this camera primarily for running, I hope to answer all your questions in this video. So let's first have a look at the facts. Why is this camera so good for running? And I mean, have you seen how small it is? It's so small, it's so lightweight, and it's really the only camera in its category. Now, of course, there's GoPros and other action cameras, but can you imagine running for more than half an hour or running very fast, having a GoPro attached to your chest with one of those vests, or maybe to your forehead with one of those like weird headband helmet things? I can't, it does not sound reasonable to me. Whereas with this camera, I can just attach it to my chest or to a cap or a headband really easily, and I will actually forget that I have a camera with me, but then when I need it, it's right there and I can just use it on the go. Another big advantage is that some of the accessories to actually carry it on your chest or on your head are included with this camera. So some of those I will actually get in a little bit and describe to you, but that's something to also keep in mind. If you buy a GoPro, you're gonna have to buy those accessories often separately. So it's a really nice camera, it's relatively cheap, and it has all those accessories included. Now, of course, I feel like I have to point out that you're not gonna get GoPro quality footage out of this absolutely tiny camera. But I personally do believe that the quality of footage that you get out of this camera is good enough. It records 1080p video for up to 5 minutes and it's super stabilized. If you go to slow motion video, so regular video is 25 frames per second, slow motion video goes up to 100 frames per second. If you do go for slow motion video though, you're gonna get kind of an odd resolution. It's not 720p, but it's not 1080p either. It is somewhere right there in the middle. It's good enough for slow motion footage, and I think it gets the message across really well, especially if you do more close-up shots. The 1080p footage that comes out of this camera, I personally believe to be definitely good enough for Instagram or any other social media. When it comes to YouTube, I think it's just good enough. I am satisfied using footage that comes off this camera on my YouTube channel, but if you aim to go for really high quality footage, of course, a GoPro is gonna deliver much more than this. But then, of course, you're also gonna run into problems that I already addressed, that a GoPro is much heavier, much bigger. You're gonna have to pay for more accessories, and these accessories are gonna be much more refraining, especially if you try to run for a longer distance or if you try to run fast. So if I can summarize this camera in one word, I would say it is so practical. Even the fact that you can remap the button presses, because there's only one button, to every action you want is so useful. For instance, I have it set up that if I press the button once, it starts recording a slow motion video. This is because if I have an accidental press or I mispress, it will still record slow motion and I can speed it up to still get the footage that I thought I was gonna get. Now, if I do turn on the camera holding the button for a bit longer and I press once, it starts recording normal video footage up to 5 minutes. Often I actually don't use the full 5 minutes because it likes to run hot quite a bit and needs some time to cool down. So typically I will start recording the video, and then once I'm done running through the part that I wanted to film, I just press the button again and it stops recording. Now, if I would not press the button, it would just automatically stop recording after those 5 minutes. If I press the button twice when the camera is turned on, it will record a hyperlapse, which is kind of a time lapse, but then you are moving, so it just looks like you're running really fast, and I think it's quite a fun effect. You can record this for up to half an hour if I'm not mistaken. Then if I press the button 3 times when the camera is turned on, I will just take a picture. And with the built-in microphone, it actually allows you to record some pretty good vlog footage as well. Now I'm out here today recording some footage for another video, and how you can make your runs more diverse, and by doing so make them more exciting. So in case you need some inspiration or you might get bored during your runs at the moment, be sure to check out the video right up there in the corner, and I'll also link it at the end of this video. But let's keep going. And then it's time for a bit of an experiment. So I wanted to really get first-person footage out of this camera of me running. Now this camera comes, as I already said, with a number of accessories, and I thought of 3 ways in which I can attach this camera to my body and get running footage. The first one is using the included magic pendant, which is this necklace. You just put it around your head, and you're actually supposed to put it underneath your shirt, in my case my long sleeve running shirt, and then you can get the camera and you can just click it right on there, and it's secure. It's not gonna fall off really easily unless you really like swipe on it from the top. But as you can see, if I put it on and I start shaking it, this is not coming off. The 2 other ways of attaching the camera to my body both use this hat clip. Now for the second way, I actually used this hat clip, but I attached it into the little chest pocket that my long sleeve has. So the camera is really attached to my body. It's also not swinging like the pendant would do. So I was thinking this might produce some different results. And then the third way of attaching the camera is by simply using the hat clip like it's intended, by attaching it to an actual hat. So using this third method, the camera is not attached to my chest, but it's actually attached to my forehead, which might give some different results. Now when it comes to movement speed, I also have 3 different categories. So I'll be testing every method of attaching the camera to my body in a walking movement, then running, and then fast running, or maybe you could call it sprinting even. Now I went out to the park the other day and took a couple of test shots. So let's have a look at it together and see which way is the best and the most stabilized for getting first-person running shots. Starting off with walking, of course. If you look at the footage from the pendant, there's some swing from left to right and also a little bit of bopping up and down, but I personally think it's still quite pleasant. If we look at the footage from the clip attached to the chest, we get a very similar result. Maybe it's a bit more shaky, but there's not a big difference between the pendant and the clip attached to the chest. And then finally, having the camera attached to the head. I mean, you're seeing what I am seeing. There's no movement from left to right, which makes a lot of sense, I think. This is because your head kind of works as a gimbal for your body. Have you ever seen those GIFs with the chicken where they move around the chicken and the head stays in the same position? It's kind of like that. So in this case, because this is where your eyes are, your body is used to kind of stabilizing it and compensating for the movements that your body is making. And we can definitely see this in the resulting video. Putting all 3 of them side to side, we can definitely see that the head is the best option here. Then we have the pendant, I would say, and afterwards the chest. There's not a really big difference between the 2, but I do think the chest is a little bit more shocky and the movements are a little more abrupt. Which also makes sense because when you take the pendant, it always has a little bit of gravity controlling it. And I think this makes for a more smooth movement. Whereas when I attach the clip to my chest, it's going to follow the exact movement of my chest anytime. And it doesn't allow for that more smoothing of the movement. But of course, we're not here for walking, we are here to run. So let's have a look. Looking at the pendant, it's definitely more shaky. We're still getting actually the same kind of movement we saw with the walking from the left to the right. But I do think this view looks really cool. And if you're trying to do like an action shot or something, this might be a really nice option to actually use. Now for my use case, which is clearly showing you my surroundings, of course I wouldn't be using such a shaky motion, but at the same time it does look really cool, and if you find a use case for it, it might be really useful. So then for the clip, we can kind of see what we already saw with the walking. It's a little shakier than the pendant was, and I mean at this point, unless you want a really dramatic action shot, I don't think this is really usable anymore. And then are you ready for the head? Because look at this. It's so nicely stabilized. There's a little more bopping up and down maybe, and a little more shaking, but look at it, the footage is so beautifully stabilized, and the head is definitely the winner here. Putting the footage side to side, it's definitely head, pendant, and then the clip on the chest in that order. Pendant, as I already said, it might be cool to still use for some shots if you want to seem like you're running really fast, and especially also having the arms come into frame does look really cool. But if you are going for the most stabilized shot, the head is the clear winner here. And then let's do some sprints, shouldn't we? With the pendant, we can see that the jittering and moving left to right is even more exaggerated. You can see, I mean, to me it still looks really cool. If you need that dramatic shot with the arms coming in, I think this is the best option. Because if you do look at the footage of the clip attached to the chest, you can see that it's so shaky, so jittery. At this point, I really wouldn't use it anymore. And then finally, the sprint with the camera attached to the head. I mean, yeah, it's slightly more shaky than it was when just running, but look at this. The stability is amazing. I am so satisfied with this result. So looking at the final side by side for sprinting, we can clearly see that the head is the winner again. Now, yeah, you could maybe use the pendant still. It's not as shaky as the chest clip. But if you want to really show off the environment and you want to show what you are looking at, then the head is the best option. And this is really something to take into account. When attaching the camera to your forehead, it's gonna see exactly what you are seeing. Or, well, I should say, it's gonna look exactly in the direction that you are looking at. So if I look to the left, it's gonna look to the left. If I look to the right, it's gonna look to the right. If I look up or down, it's gonna look up and down. This might be an advantage for you, this might be a disadvantage. I noticed that whenever I was recording a hyperlapse, this might get slightly annoying because I had to kind of keep looking forward and only look around with my eyes. Of course, it's not that extreme, but at the same time, like, you do want the most stable footage, and especially in a hyperlapse, if you're gonna look left and right, it's gonna come out relatively jittery. So in that case, for a hyperlapse, maybe it's better to attach it to your chest, but no, it's actually not. I did some tests, and walking with a hyperlapse with the camera attached to your chest still works really well. But then once you start running, you're seeing the results right now. It's really not an option. So the only option here is to turn on hyperlapse, attach it to your forehead, and then just try to keep looking straight ahead of you as much as possible. Now, of course, credit where credit is due. This amazing stabilization is mainly due to Insta360's amazing flow state stabilization algorithm. You can see a comparison right now on your screen, where the left you see the unstabilized footage and to the right you see the stabilized footage. This is all electronic image stabilization, but man, does it perform. So in case you are still wondering how to get the best, most stabilized first-person running footage out of your Insta360 GO, just wear it on top of your head, like this with a headband, or this is actually a rolled up buff, which I think looks quite nice. Or you can of course use the cap that we also used in the experiment video. Now, if you do want to bring a selfie stick or something like that, you can always just really easily take the camera out of the clip, put it in the selfie stick, on which you will have the pivot mount that's also included with the camera. Just put it in there, record it. Or even if you want to do some handheld shots, for instance, where you just hold the camera at arm's length and record like that. Or maybe sometimes what I've done is attach it to something metal like a lamppost and then record like that. It really works really well. And then when you're done, you just put it right back into the headband and you can just forget about it being there again. And that is all I have for you today. I will probably be working on a lot more videos surrounding the Insta360 GO. Think different tips and tricks, things you didn't know about it that I personally haven't seen in any of the full reviews that are out there on YouTube. So if you are interested in those types of videos, let me know in the comments down below, and also subscribe to this channel to be updated once those videos do go live. Furthermore, on this channel, I try to focus on technology and running. So if you're interested in any of those things, also feel free to stick around by subscribing down below. In case you like this video, you also know there's that nice button down there. But that's everything I had to tell you today. I hope you learned something new today. Thank you so much for watching, and you will see me in the next video. Bye bye.